If any food worker is diagnosed with any of the following infectious agents, that worker should be sent home and the health department notified. Why do you notify the health department? In case they get reports from people, they can put two and two together and come out and check your place out. So for these people, because if people are getting salmonella from your food, that could be real dangerous real fast. So salmonella, shigella, E. coli, hepatitis A, onset of jaundice in the last 30 days, you send those people home and you notify the health department. What's jaundice is yellowing from the liver not functioning properly, and that can be from a variety of things that including hepatitis. So you'll see yellowing of the eyes, and ultimately the whole body would turn yellow. Also, note that an employee with diarrhea should go home until the symptoms are gone for 24 hours. So that's not like they had one bout of diarrhea, but if they're having problems and going to the bathroom with regular diarrhea, send them home for 24 hours. Now, these people should be restricted from working directly with exposed food, utensils, equipment, or linens if they suffer from food, cold, vomiting. Is kind of why I hesitated on the last slide, because vomiting like once or something, you should move them away until you figure out if they've got a problem, in which case you're going to send them home like we said on the last slide. But otherwise, put them in the back. They could do, they can't do cleaning of equipment, but they could do repair of equipment or filing of paperwork or something not directly exposed to the food, utensils, equipment, or linens. And also jaundice for more than 30 days. What's the separation of the 30 days is they're not contagious after the 30 days. But if they still have jaundice, you keep them away from the food. So we talk about foodborne illness outbreaks. What is an outbreak? That's defined as 2 or more customers becoming ill from the same time period. So you need to report those to the health department. If 2 people called you up who ate, let's say, lunch or dinner yesterday, even if they didn't eat the same food, you need to report that to the health department so they can try to figure out what was the problem. Hand washing, the cause of most of the problems. Wash your hands. This is the single most important action you can take to prevent the spread of foodborne illness. Hand sanitizers and gels do not replace hand washing. They would only be used after you washed your hands. So I find people think, well, I don't need to wash my hands, or down in the engine room of a ship, and they think, well, I don't have to wash my hands. They got the hand sanitizer upstairs, so that'll take care of it. But no, just like the you have to clean and sanitize the table, you got to clean and sanitize your hands too. So you don't necessarily have to sanitize them, but you have to clean them first. And then if you use the sanitizer, okay, fine. But gotta clean them. Hands must be washed lots of times, probably twice as much as the average person washes their hands in the course of a day in the kitchen, I would say. This is the food handlers. So, hands must be washed after smoking, eating, touching money, non-food services, coughing, sneezing, shaking hands, or otherwise contaminating their hands. Lots of reasons to wash your hands. Better to wash too many than too few times. When first reporting to work, a lot of companies require people when they walk into the kitchen they have to wash their hands, even if they would say they just washed them in the bathroom. We'd like to see everybody wash their hands. If you're switching from raw to cooked products or to ready-to-eat products, you should be washing your hands. There's a magazine called Nation's Restaurant News. It's a weekly thing. It's really good. It's got a lot of good information, a lot of good food safety articles, but also everything to do with restaurants. And the headline on the first page was, nobody wants to have doo-doo on their burger. And I'm guessing that's probably true. And the article had to do with a new device the size of a hand dryer, which shows fecal matter on their hands as bright red on the screen, indicating what areas need further scrubbing. Part of that article, a study showed 70% of hospital doctors, 48% of nurses, and 64% of ICU staff not in compliance with proper hand washing. So if a doctor or a nurse in ICU didn't wash their hands properly, what's your thought process on old Gladys in Veg Prep washing her hands properly? Probably not there either. Somewhere between many and most operators are not proud of their hand washing rates, nor should they be. 19 studies by Hand Washing for Life, which is a web-based program. You can just Google Hand Washing for Life. There's a lot of good stuff, posters and things like that that you can get there. Showed on average, the pre-training baseline, in other words, before they put a program in place to teach the people how to wash their hands better, compliance level was less than 50% of their own designated self-level. So if the employer said you should wash your hands these times, they were washing their hands less than half that many times, which I would say is pretty standard, probably. The point being that hands must be clean when handling food, and no artificial fingernails are allowed. If you do have artificial fingernails, you got to have them covered with gloves. Why? Because they get contaminated easy enough. This is the way we wash our hands. Wash your hands. How do you wash your hands? Wash your hands with warm 100-degree potable water. Gotta be warm, no cold water. Warm water. Apply hand soap. Lather vigorously between the fingers and up to the elbows for at least 10 to 15 seconds for that part of it. Rinse with warm potable water. Dry with air or single-use paper towel. Turn off the faucet with the single-use paper towel and go to work. So 20 seconds is the total elapsed time. How do you know 20 seconds? You sing happy birthday twice. Happy birthday to you twice. How do you get out of there? You use the paper towel to open up the door and then play basketball and shoot the towel back into the trash bin, or take it with you and throw it in a trash bin outside. But if you don't use the paper towel, then you're going to end up with contaminating your hands with the handle of the door. Hand washing sink supplies. The hand wash station must have an adequate supply of disposable paper towels or a forced air blower to dry your hands. Each sink must have soap available. Sounds logical, but how often do you go in a restaurant and there is no soap or there are no paper towels? So I always give the people a little speech. Where do y'all guys wash your hands? Oh, we wash them in the bathroom over there. Okay, well, you don't have any paper towels. Or worse yet, you don't have any soap. Latex-free or plastic gloves. When wearing latex-free gloves, treat the gloves as if they were your bare hands. If you should be washing your hands, you should be changing your gloves. When the gloves become contaminated, plus anytime you change tasks when handling ready-to-eat foods, you can't kill the bacteria you created in ready-to-eat foods because you're not going to cook them. And at least you should change your gloves every 4 hours. Discard them. Wash your hands, put on a new pair of gloves. Let's say you drop an expensive steak on the floor. What do? You look around, see if anybody's looking, the 5-second rule. No. You pick up the steak, throw it away, take off your gloves, wash your hands, put on a new pair of gloves. Do gloves matter? Tests of food samples handled by gloved and non-gloved workers showed no statistical difference in contamination by microbes such as E. coli and staph. One food safety expert in the same article, which came from the NRA, one food safety expert said hand washing is still the key to preventing contamination. Personally, I'm not a giant fan of gloves. Somebody makes you wear them. I think if you're in the public eye, wear them. Other than that, the only person you're doing a big favor to is the glove salesman. I think you're better off to have a good hand washing program in place, because you're more likely, seems to me, to wash your hands than you are to change your gloves, because you can feel it. Your hands are dirty, and your gloves you really can't. Cuts. For minor cuts, bandage with a water-resistant bandage, cover with water-resistant material, and return to work, and make sure that the bandage stays on. I had one student who won a lawsuit. I think he got $25,000. Found a bloody bandage in his food. Not a good thing. Severe cuts may require medical treatment. A worker with a severe cut may not handle food or food contact surfaces. Clothing must be clean, because otherwise they harbor bacteria. So if the person looks dirty, has chicken soup from the morning on them, what is that? That's food. That food has bacteria. So by the afternoon, you've got 5 or 6 hour old food with bacteria that's been growing for those 5 or 6 hours. So you need to look clean. Need to change outer garments, such as aprons, as often as needed to keep them clean. My big pet peeve in life is when you grab my glass by the top. My wife's big pet peeve in life is people who come out into the serving area and they look like slobs. They look like they swam through the soup to get there. Well, she'll say to them, is that the only apron they give you? Yes, ma'am, it is. Well, guess who's going to talk to my wife on the way out? The manager. You got to have enough uniforms for people to look clean. Plus, if they're willing to come out there looking dirty, then what do you think the kitchen looks like? Don't use aprons or side towels, wiping cloths to wipe off your hands. What are you supposed to wipe off your hands with? Paper towels. That's both at home and in the kitchen at work. What's your apron for? To keep your clothing clean. It's not to wipe your knife or your fingers or anything. If you're looking for a gotcha, check the cook's side towel. Those tend to be pretty nasty. I went to a restaurant, and these people were telling me how fabulous the restaurant was and how great the chef was. So, okay, here comes the chef. Well, he was the epitome of what I'm talking about. He looked like a slob. Nice guy. Food was tasty. And his side towel just looked like he'd been using that baby for the week. It should be in a bucket of sanitizer. Should not be in the chef's belt. I went to, actually it was a Carrabba's, and some efficiency expert had put like a eyeglass case thing on their belt, and they put the side towel in there, and I was just thinking, oh, I wonder how often they clean that eyeglass case looking thing. A restaurant in Vegas was closed for a week. A friend of mine went there every day. Checked the closed by the health department was the sign on the door, so finally they're open. Me, like, I'm gonna wait a week or so, but he went, says, well, what was the problem? They said, well, the health department couldn't figure out what the problem was, so they said open and we'll hang around and observe. And what they observed was food worker who was using the same side towel for an hour on end. Finally they said, hey, can we see your side towel? And sure enough, they found the bacteria that had caused the problem in the first place. Drinking on the job. Personal beverages. The code says that an employee may drink from a closed beverage container if the container is handled to prevent contamination of the employee's hands, the container, exposed food, equipment, utensils, and linens, which means with a lid and a straw. And it means that management would say you can keep the your sodas. It's hot. So I live in Vegas. It's very hot, very dry. You need some drinks, but it's a matter of where you put it. So management would say you can keep them over here, away from the food contact surfaces, and definitely with a lid and a straw.